How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's stick mobility class. I am Coach Ray. Thank you for joining me. It has been a little while. So for today's class, we are going to need two sticks. I have one long and one short stick. The focus of today is going to be working on that superficial front line. So we are going to be using the sticks, or at least the corner of a wall, for us to get into kind of like a Nordic knee extension. And so with that, I'm gonna have the stick placed in a way where it allows us to drive down to further connect to that front line. We're also gonna get into a little bit of core work as well, and working on a little bit of anti-rotational core work. So it's gonna be a fun one today. We're gonna go through a full body warm up, and then we're gonna go through our cool down as well. Cool down is still gonna be focused on that superficial front line of really opening up all those tissues here, all right? So for the warm up, I do wanna start from the top and work down. So we are gonna start on the neck and shoulders first, and then we're gonna move into spine specific drills. And so to start off with, I'm actually gonna turn to the side here. I'm gonna have the stick angled in towards me. So I have my feet about roughly shoulder width apart, maybe a slight bit wider. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have both hands in line with my chest. Now with the stick angled out or angled in towards me, I'm gonna sink my hips down a little bit, get to a nice castile position. And I'm also gonna tuck my pelvis. So from here, I'm gonna drive the stick down lightly, and I'm gonna pull my chin back. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by rotating side to side. So keeping my chin back and down, I'm gonna rotate to the right first, driving the stick down as I rotate, and then I'm gonna come back forward, ease off that tension, rotate to the left, driving that stick down again. Then come back forward, ease off that tension, rotate to the right, drive the stick down. Make sure you're keeping that neck in extension, back forward, ease off, drive down, rotate to the left. We're not generating a ton of tension. Good, back forward, ease off, rotate to the right, drive down. We just want to make sure that we're keeping all the tissues active here as we go through the motion. Rotate to the left one more time. Good, back forward. Keep driving that stick down. Let's go at about 20% tension. Keep the chin back, and then I'm gonna tilt my chin up towards the ceiling, then back down, and I'm gonna tuck my chin down into my chest. Good, back up. Bring your chin down. Good, let's go up. Down. Back to center, and ease off. Now I'm actually gonna face forward here. We're gonna take the stick, we're gonna place it behind our back. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch out the trap neck area. So I'm gonna have my hands facing behind me. So I have my shoulders internally rotated here. I'm gonna go with a roughly shoulder width stance here. Now from here, what I wanna do, I wanna lightly pull the stick apart, only about 20-30% tension. Same thing, I'm gonna keep my chin back. I wanna keep my neck in extension and keep control of the rib cage. Don't want it to flare out too much. Wanna keep it nice and controlled. Now from here, keeping arms straight, pulling the stick apart, I'm gonna drive the stick down towards the floor, and I'm gonna tilt my right ear towards my right shoulder. And then I'm gonna come back to center, and I'm gonna go over to the opposite side. So I'm gonna tilt my left ear towards my left shoulder here. Back up, to the right. Good, left. You'll probably notice for me, my right side is super tight. So that side that's really tight, it's okay to take a few extra seconds to hold that position as we work through the ranges of motion here. Oh, let's go one more time each side. Keep pulling that stick apart, keep that tension. Good. Now to the left. Excellent. Back up and ease off. Nicely done. Okay, so So now we're gonna do here, we're gonna work on the shoulders, loosening up the scapula and the shoulder blades, and then kind of work on the glenohumeral joint. All right, so for the shoulders, I do want to focus on doing some kayaking. So I prefer kayaking because it allows us to get a lot of movement through the shoulders, but also really get the shoulder blades to actually move and glide along the rib cage. So with the short stick here, I'm gonna take my fingertips on the ends of the stick, have the right hand up, nice and high. Now I'm gonna have a wide stance, a little wider than shoulder width, and I'm gonna sink my hips down a bit, just to make sure we're in a good position. Tuck the pelvis a bit, squeeze the glute. I'm gonna drive that right hand through, left shoulder comes back into extension, comes up and over, and then I drive that left hand through. Good. Want to go nice and slow, keep everything controlled. We don't want movement from the spine, we just want movement from the scapula. Good. You want to try to keep both elbows straight to the best of your ability. So you want that elbow extension here. Good. Make sure you're breathing here. Good, let's go backwards. Reversing that direction. Now you're gonna start to feel the chest open up a bit. Good. Now we're gonna go back forward again. This time we're gonna start to dip down. So as the left hand comes up and over, I'm gonna dip over to my right, drive that left hand through. As my right hand comes up and over, I'm gonna laterally flex over to the left. Really get some movement now in the spine. Get a little bit of rotation, get some flexion. Just kind of get all movement here. Breathe. Let's go a few more here. Excellent. And ease off. Good, perfect. Now we're going to use dislocates in the way that we're actually not going through a full range of motion, but instead we're just going to go through some activation. So for this one, I do want to go with a tall kneeling position. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm in a good, strong position to kind of activate those anterior tissues, or at least in the lower body, as I do this here. So I want to drive, I want to have both feet extended, both ankles extended. I want to drive the tops of my feet into the floor, not a lot, about 20 to 30%. I'm going to grip the stick out wider than the grip. I'm still using the short stick here, folks. So from here, keeping my palms facing towards my body, driving my feet down, squeezing my glutes. This is, again, allows that tension in the lower body. I'm gonna pull the stick apart, about 20 to 30% tension, and I'm gonna slowly bring the stick up, keeping the arm straight. Get to that end range, bring it back down. As soon as the stick lines up with your eyes, compress, 20, 30% still, back down. Once you get to back down to the bottom position, pull apart again, come up, try to stay up nice and tall, back down, compress, excellent, pull apart, good, all the way up, back down, and compress. Excellent. And ease off. I'm going to turn forward now, because now we're going to do at that top position, we're going to work with pulling the stick side to side here. So what we're looking for as we do this is as we go through the range of motion, we don't want lateral flexion of the spine, we want a nice good tall spine here. So I'm going to have the palms facing in towards me again, arms are straight, pull the stick apart, bring the stick up overhead. You're still keeping that lower body activation, driving those feet into the floor, staying nice and tall. Now with my right arm, I'm gonna pull harder, pulling my left arm into an overhead position, getting my bicep close to my ear. Now I'm gonna pull back to the center, pull over to the opposite side, getting that right bicep closer to that ear. Good. Back up and over, opposite side. You're still pulling apart on both ends, but you're pulling harder with one side as we go through it here. Good. That's 2. Let's go one more. 3. And 3. Back to center. Down. Compress. And ease off. Excellent. All right, so this is where we're also going to use the long stick as well. So we're going to use both the long and a short stick here. Now, for this drill, I do want to actually have the long stick. So we're going to need to use the corner of the wall. And I actually want to have the long stick driving the bottom of the stick in the corner of the wall here. So we need something stable for it to press against. Now, the short stick is actually going to be lined up with the big toe of my outside foot. So the stick that's closest to the wall, the long stick, is going to be lined up with midfoot. This left stick's going to be lined up about 6 inches in front of the line of my big toe, lined up with the big toe. Now what I'm going to do here, having my left hand roughly about rib cage level, with my right hand on top of the long stick, I'm going to start to hinge back. As I do that, I'm going to bring the stick on the outside going towards the wall while pulling the stick closest to the wall towards my rib cage here. I'm going to come back up nice and slow. Excellent. We're going to do that 2 more times. So same thing. Hinge back. Left outside stick comes across the body. Inside stick comes towards the rib cage. So we're getting a lot of rotation in the spine, but we're actively pushing that outside hand towards the wall. Back up. Let's go one more time here. Let's go ahead and hinge back. Good. Back up, nice and slow. And ease off. Let's go ahead and switch. Different angle. We're gonna do it again. So now the long stick is still goes against the wall here, but now my right foot is on the outside. Take the right stick, place it in front of the line of the big toe here. Same thing. I'm gonna start to hinge, bringing the right stick or the outside short stick across, going towards the wall. Bring in the left stick or the long stick towards my rib cage. Back up nice and slow. And ease off. You can always adjust your positioning in terms of how close you are to the wall. So same thing. Drive the hips back. Right arm comes across. Really try to reach that short stick towards the wall. If you can, you want to get it to touch the wall. Back up nice and slow. Excellent. Ease off. Let's go one more time here. Hinge back. Right arm comes across. Good. Back up nice and slow. And ease off. Excellent. And so now I'm going to place the short stick down. I'm going to take the long stick. And what I want to do here is I want to get into a single arm hang. And I want to work on rotation specifically. And so I'm going to take my left foot forward. Right foot's going to be back. I have the stick in my right hand. I got the bottom of the stick in line with the heel of the front foot. Right hand is up high. I'm going to place my left hand on the stick roughly about rib cage level, maybe a little lower, and I'm going to sink that back knee down towards the floor, and I want to try to achieve a nice good vertical position, at least with the stick in my arm. Now from here, I'm going to lightly drive that right arm into the floor, and I'm going to start to rotate left to right. Now, as we work through these rotations, you're going to feel the spine and rib cage open up, but also you're probably going to notice a little bit of a stretch in the hip, right? Good. One more each way. Excellent, back to center, ease off. Now we're gonna switch sides. So I'll actually turn to the side here. Right leg's gonna be forward, left leg's gonna be back. And you can always adjust and wiggle your foot back as you actually start to lower into the stretch here. So positioning is still the same. Left hand is top, right hand's right about a little lower than rib cage here. I'm gonna sink that back knee down. Get into a nice good position. Now from here, drive the stick down with that left arm. So if I let go with my right, I'm still in that same position. I wanna pack that shoulder. Now I'm gonna rotate side to side. I'm gonna switch to the right, left. Good. Keep the rotations nice and controlled. Excellent, one more time. Good, back to center. Ease off and relax. Good. So now it's a good way to, again, kind of work on not only getting into a nice, good, tall position, splitting the hips, but working on that rotational aspect of the spine as well. Now, I'm gonna take the short stick. I'm still gonna be using a long stick, so I'm grabbing both sticks here. And what we're gonna do is gonna work on a little bit of T-spine extension. So this is just to open up the T-spine, open up the rib cage, just working on that positioning here. So I'm gonna take about roughly a hip to shoulder width stance. The stance actually doesn't particularly matter necessarily, but whatever allows you to get to a good position. Now, I'm gonna have the bottoms of the sticks angled in towards my toes, about roughly 6 to 8 inches in front of the line of my toes here. Both hands are going to be about roughly shoulder to rib cage height. What I'm gonna do from here, I'm gonna lightly drive the sticks down, and I'm going to drive my hips back. Into a nice, good overhead position. Take advantage of that stretch. Really try to elongate the spine as much as you can. Back up nice and slow. So driving those sticks down, get to a nice tall position. Let's go back into it again. Keep driving those sticks down, nice and slow. We're not creating a ton of tension, only about 20–30%, because we're just trying to warm up this motion here. Back up. Excellent, good, let's go one more time. Drive the sticks down lightly, 20–30%. Reach those hands out. Now what I want to do is I'm actually going to go through moving the spine. So I'm going to go back and forth between flexing and extending. So right now I'm in extension. Now I'm going to flex the spine. You're going to feel more activation in the core. Now extend. Almost like a cat camel. Flex the spine. Try to round it. Extend. Let's go one more time. Flex the spine, get a nice good rounding. Want to try to drive that back up towards the ceiling. Now extend. Excellent. Come back up. Nice and tall, and ease off. Excellent. Now, one last drill, because I do want to kind of warm up the hips a little bit. Just want to really quickly focus on some pelvic tilts. Again, we are going to be going into a Nordic knee extension type of drill, so I do want to make sure that the hips are a little bit warmed up. Now, for this, we are going to change the foot stance. So we're going to start off with about a roughly hip width position. We're going to go with a roughly shoulder width position, and then we're going to go even wider just to create more challenge on the hips, but also as we open up the hips, that movement is going to become extremely important. So I'm going to start off with about a hip width stance. I want both feet pointed forward. Bottom of the stick is angled in towards me. It doesn't matter if you're using the long or the short stick here, but just for sake of example, I'm using the long stick. Now, what I'm gonna do from here, hands are roughly about chest height, squat down a little bit, get a little bit of a horse stance, drive the stick down. And what I'm gonna do anterior posterior tilts. So I'm gonna do a posterior tilt, tuck my pelvis in, squeeze my glutes. Good. Now anterior tilt. We're driving that stick down about 30%. Posterior tilt. The movement is going to be relatively quick. Anterior tilt. Good. Posterior tilt. Excellent. Anterior tilt. Back to center. Ease off. Now we're going to bring our feet out wider. So I'm going to shift my feet about roughly shoulder width, maybe a slight bit wider. I'm going to turn to the side here. Same thing. Step nice and tall. Drive the stick down. Posterior tilt first. Squeeze the glutes. Drive those knees out. Anterior tilt. Good. Posterior tilt. Anterior tilt. One more time. Posterior. And anterior. Excellent. Back to center. Bring the feet out even wider. So now you're going to be in a pretty wide stance, almost as if we're doing the slap shot. Same thing. Drive the stick down, give about 30% tension. From here, posterior tilt. The movement is going to actually feel a lot smaller. Anterior tilt. Posterior tilt. Good. Anterior tilt. Posterior tilt. Excellent. Anterior tilt. Back to center. Ease off. Now wiggle those feet in. And now hips should be feeling a little bit more warmed up. So now let's go and get into that strength training phase. All right, so this is where we're going to need the corner of a wall, something stable for us to press into. So we're going to focus on that Nordic knee extension first. Now, we've done this drill plenty of times. We've done this where we have the stick out in front, but it's going to be a little different because now I actually want to drive the stick down into the corner of the wall. Now, what this allows us to do as we actually start to go back into that position is it allows us to drive the stick down to further create more tension in that superficial front line. So for where my hands are going to be, I want my hands above my head actually, all right? Now, my knees are going to be roughly about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider, depends on you. Tops of my feet are into the floor. I want to drive those feet into the floor here. So from this position, this is going to be kind of a haul out position here. I'm going to drive the stick down first. Let's go 60%. And I'm going to drive my feet into the floor, squeeze my glutes. Make sure to lock those hips into extension so we're not bending at the low back. Now what I'm going to do from here, driving a stick into the wall the entire time, I'm going to start to come back. Now my hands are at shoulder height or chest height. Hold this position, come back up, and ease off. So, what you should feel as you're going back, an increased tension on the core, the quads, the hips. We're exaggerating that activation by driving the stick down. So let's go ahead and go again. Hands are straight out. Drive the stick down. Let's go 70%. Drive the feet to the floor. Squeeze the glutes. Start to come back. Drive that stick down. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Back up. And ease off. Doing good. Let's go a few more repetitions here. Drive the stick down. Drive the feet into the floor. Squeeze the glutes. Lean back. Drive. 3, 2, 1. Back up. And ease off. Excellent. Let's go 2 more here. Drive the stick down. Feet down into the floor. Squeeze the glutes. Still 70%. Drive down. 3, 2, 1. Back up. And ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time. Drive the stick down. Drive the feet into the floor, tuck the pelvis. 4, 3, 2, 1. Back up. And ease off. Woo! It's a tough one. So, the great thing about this is it allows you to kind of get a much better feel of what it's like to activate those anterior tissues. Because oftentimes when we do it, we can change the lever system. But when you add in driving down force, that further connects that front line here. Now we're going to get into working with a dead bug. So I'm going to place the long stick down. I'm going to use a short stick for this one here. Now, for this, I'm actually going to turn to the side here. We're not actually going to actively move or extend the leg. Instead, what we are going to do is, or extend the hip, I should say. But what we are going to do is we're going to extend the knee, right? So we're going to be in a dead bug position, but as we actually go through and extend the knee, we actually start to create a little bit more of a challenge. So from here, I'm going to grip the stick out quite a bit wider than shoulder width here. I want to have my arm straight. For me, I like to have the stick right where my hips are. So effectively right over my hips. So if your hands are closer, it's actually, the stick's going to be down even further. So for me, I'm going to go here. I'm going to bring both knees up to meet the stick. And I want to keep both ankles dorsiflexed, keep the knees at 90 degrees. That is my starting position here. Now I'm going to bring my upper back off the floor just a little bit, and I'm going to compress. So let's compress at 60%. So push. We're going to hold this for 15 seconds here. This is just to get more activation in anterior tissues, but also allows us to get ready for the motion. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to ease off, nice and slow. Now we're going to go through and extend the knee one side at a time. We're going to do 3 extensions and then switch sides. So let's go back to that same position. Make sure your low back is driving into the floor. It should feel like it's flat. So from here, let's go 50%. Push, compress. I'm going to extend my right knee. Back down. 1. Up. Good. Down. 2. One more time. Up. Down. 3. Good. Extend the left. Good. Down. 1. Good. Down. 2. One more time. Down. 3. Ease off. Take a second. So, as you're going through and extending that knee, you should be feeling your rec fem, your quad, all those tissues working in unison. Keeping the ankle dorsiflex connects that entire line. So it's important to make sure we're paying attention to positioning. So let's go one last time here. Okay. Let's increase that tension. So we're at 50%. Let's go 70%. So we're going to get to that same position. Arms are straight. Bring the knees up. Upper back off the floor. 70%. Push and compress. Extend that right knee. 1. Good. Up. 2. Drive that knee up. 3. Switch sides. Extend. 1. 2. One more time. 3. Down and ease off. Excellent. Let's go to relax here for a second. So now I'm going to turn to the side. This is where we're going to need a wall. Now, what I want to do here, I'm going to have the stick going out to the side. Now, the objective here is we're actually going to really be driving the stick into the wall with the arms as we're in a hollowed out position. However, pushing the stick into the wall hard enough is going to feel like you're actually going to rotate over. So the objective here is to make sure we're staying as straight as we can. So I'm gonna have the stick roughly over my chest. Arms are gonna be, or hands are gonna be roughly about shoulder width, maybe a slight bit wider. Now from here, I'm gonna tuck my pelvis. So try to flatten that lower back to the ground from this starting position. You're already gonna feel core activation. Now from here, I'm gonna lift both feet up, lift my upper back off the floor, drive the stick into the wall 70%, push. 3, 2, 1. Ease off and relax. We're gonna do that 2 more times. It's gonna feel like you're gonna push yourself over when you're driving with your arms. Now the objective is again to resist that. So you can adjust as you need to as well. You can also go from a dead bug position. So feet out, straight, upper back off the floor, and drive the stick into the wall. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time here, folks. And then we're gonna switch. Feet off the floor, upper back off the floor, drive the stick into the wall. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So this is actually this is also a really good fun drill to do with partners, just because you're now challenging each other, but also you keep the person accountable. So this is a really, really good partner drill here. So same thing, legs extended, legs up, upper back off the floor, and push your stick into the wall. Push with both arms. 3, 2, 1, ease off. Excellent. We're gonna go 2 more. You're also gonna notice that one side is gonna be a lot harder than the other. All right, feet off the floor, back off the floor, and push. 3, 2, 1, ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time. Again, 70%. Last one. Legs up extended, upper back off the floor, and push. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. All right, folks, so now we're gonna get into the stretching. So I'm gonna use the long stick to start off with. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna focus on stretching out that hip flexor, the anterior line first. And so we're gonna use a long stick because I wanna have a stick that allows me to really reach up and kind of open up that line here. So I'm gonna have my right knee down first, and really want to show it from the side so you get a really good perspective of it. So the bottom of the stick is actually going to be in line with the toes of the front foot. So if your foot's out further, it's okay to adjust the bottom of the stick to make sure it's in line with the toes here. Now, my right knee's down, so I want my right hand up, all right? So this is going to, again, create a little bit more lengthening on those tissues. Now from here, I have the top of my back foot into the floor. I'm gonna place my left hand right about where the sticker is, or think about roughly chest or rib cage height here. Now what I'm gonna do, the right stick is also in line with the hip of my right hip. I'm gonna keep my right arm straight, so I'm actually gonna lock that elbow out. I'm gonna drive my shoulder blade down towards my hip. I'm gonna drive the back foot into the floor, squeeze the right glute, and really try to split the hips here. Now, you're gonna notice a much more significant stretch in the front of that hip as we go into it here. I'm gonna ease off, really subtle, right? So you can adjust the distance of the stick. So let's go ahead and get set up again. Hands on the stick. I'm actually gonna move my right hand down a little bit more. So I'm gonna sink forward into it more. Drive the back foot down, right arm straight, drive the right shoulder down, sink forward into it. Really try to actively split those hips here. 3, 2, 1, ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time, and then I'll switch angles and show it from the front. Drive the back foot down, arm straight, drive the stick into the floor, shoulder down. Actively try to split those hips. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Now I'm going to switch hips. Right, so now I'm going to go with the right leg forward. The same position. Now the bottom of the stick is going to be in the same position. It's lined up with the toes of my front foot here. So again, I mentioned that the stick is right in front of the hip that I'm stretching. So I'm going to have my left hand up high first. Right hand's on the stick. From here, drive the stick down, bring the left shoulder down towards the floor. Drive that back foot down and split the hips. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to ease off. Excellent. Move that left hand down a little bit more. Adjust the position of the stick if you'd like. Try to stick down, shoulder down, drive that back foot into the floor, squeeze the glute, and split those hips. So you're kind of getting a little bit of a hang here, right? And ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time. Arm straight, stick into the floor, shoulder down, drive that back foot into the floor, squeeze the glute, split those hips. Three, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Good. And now I'm going to do, so I'm still going to be in the same position. I'm going to be in a tall kneeling position. So we're into the Nordic knee extension before. We're going to be in that same position. I'm going to angle the stick, or the bottom of the stick, back into the corner of the wall. It's a really good way for us, again, stretch those anterior tissues. So again, I'm going to stick with the long stick here. I'm going to have this thing going over my right shoulder. However, you can switch shoulders if you'd like. It doesn't need to be over any specific shoulder. So from here, knees are roughly about shoulder width apart. Tops of my foot, tops of both feet are driving into the floor. I want to create a little bit of tension, only about 15 to 20%, just to get a light bit of activation. So the stick's coming over my right shoulder here. Both hands are stacked. I want to push my feet into the floor, and I'm going to slowly start to lower myself, going towards the floor. Make sure you keep those glutes nice and tight. Go until you find a good stretch. 3, 2, 1. Walk yourself back up, nice and slow. And ease off. Let's go again. Drive your feet to the floor. Sink back. Slowly walk your hands down. Only go as far as you comfortably can. It should not be painful. 3, 2, 1. Back up. Nice and slow. Excellent. And ease off. Perfect. And now, right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into the slap shot. It's one of my favorite stretches. So we're just gonna work on pulling the stick apart and compressing at certain ranges of motion, but we're only going to be going towards the side that allows us to get a stretch in that chest here. So I'm going to step back, still with the long stick here. I'm going to take a wide stance, relatively wide stance. This is a little slippery, so if you see my feet adjust, that's why. So from here, I want the stick behind my mid back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to hinge. Keeping a nice neutral spine. Now I want to rotate the right end of the stick down to be in line with my center line here. Now I'm going to pull the stick apart about 20-30%. I'm going to lunge to the right. Now I'm going to try to compress and shorten the stick. Come back to center, pull apart again, lunge to the right, sink those hips back, drive off that left leg, compress the stick, back to center, ease off. Good. I'm going to rotate the left end down. Good. Same thing. Pull that stick apart. Now we're going to lunge to the left. Now compress the stick. Excellent. Back to center. Pull apart. Lunge to the left. Sink those hips back. Good. Compress the stick. Back to center. Good. Ease off. Let's get that right end of the stick further across the center line if possible. Pull the stick apart. Lunge to the right. Compress the stick. Back to center. Pull apart. Lunge to the right. Compress. Back to center. Ease off. Rotate that left end of the stick down. Again, try to get it across the midline if possible. Pull the stick apart, lunge to the left. Compress. Back to center. Good. Pull the stick apart. Lunge to the left. Compress. Back to center. Ease off. Slowly come out of position, squeeze the glutes. Excellent. Wiggle those feet in. Now I also want to finish off with a quick little bow and arrow. So I'm going to have the stick going out to my side. I'm going to start with it on my left side. I'm going to have the bottom of the stick a few inches from the outside of my foot. And I have the bottom of the stick lined up with my midfoot here. Left hand's going to be roughly about rib cage height. I want my right hand to come up and over, thumb facing down towards the floor. Now from here, drive the hips away from the stick first. Drive the stick into the floor, about 15 to 20%. Extend those hands out. I'm gonna ease off, nice and slow. Back up to that starting position. I'm gonna rotate the stick a bit, and now I'm actually gonna move my hand up a little higher. So almost at shoulder height. Take my right hand up over the top, thumb facing down towards the floor, drive the hips away, drive the stick into the floor, extend those hands out so you'll get an even bigger stretch. In the lateral line, ease off, nice and slow, and relax. We're gonna switch sides here. So, right hand is gonna be about rib cage height. Left hand up over the top, thumb facing down. Drive the hips away first. Drive the stick into the floor. Extend. Ease off. Excellent. Rotate the stick a bit. Have that right hand up higher. Again, about the roughly close to shoulder height. Left hand comes up, over, thumb facing down, drive the hips away, drive the stick into the floor, extend that right hand out. 3, 2, 1, ease off, and relax. And that, my friends, concludes today's stick mobility class. Thank you for joining me. I hope everybody had a good class, and I'll be sure to catch you on the next one. Stay safe.